beer, it's good for you.
Hello and welcome to the video. Within this video I'll be covering my second brew experience with the new BrewMonk Wi-Fi. The second brew was the minimum batch size of just 10 litres, which is the equivalent of 2.64 US liquid gallons. I also used the BrewMonk's own Counterflow chiller and will include details about this too. The video you're watching now is the third in my series of videos about the new system, which started with this initial deep dive video, and then I followed up with the details from my very first brew experience, which was with a standard 1 keg batch. So if you've not seen these already, then I suggest checking those out after you have this one. This small batch brew started like any other really, simply with less water and less malt, as you would expect from a small batch brew. However, after a while of this stirring in process, I decided to add another litre of water on top of Brewfather's suggested mash water, which came directly from the sparge water. This small change gave me a mash consistency that I was happy with. I have no concerns in doing this when it is needed, and it clearly was here. This isn't unique to the BrewMonk, or in fact just small batch brews either, but it really is best to have more fluid mash, so that sometimes you just have to make that call. Another thing I'd also noticed was that due to having less malt, the top plate would be hanging in the air if used, so to speak, due to the design of the middle overflow pipe, which restricts the amount the top plate can be lowered down to, so there was really no point in adding it for the actual mash. I was not particularly concerned about this for the mash, but it could impact the sparge some, as the top plate can assist in getting an even flow through the grain bed, so I added in some light stirring during the mash for a few minutes as a potential compensation. As it turned out though, this was probably not necessary, as I ended up some gravity points in advance of the estimated specific gravity for this brew, though thankfully not enough that warranted any changes. I always prefer to be above the estimate rather than below, because dilution is always better than having to break out the dried malt extract. It has to be said the conclusion here in respect of the BrewMonk's mashing ability for a small batch without the top mash plate is reassuringly positive. As we saw with the 1 keg batch, the boil was certainly vigorous enough, and this was the case with this small batch brew of course too, but more important, it was not over vigorous either, which can certainly be messy, but most of all there is the risk of boiling hot water hitting you or others in the vicinity. This was not the case here thankfully, and it is clear that this minimum batch size has been carefully considered by the manufacturer. For this brew I used the BrewMonk's very own Counterflow chiller, which is certainly of very nice quality and very solid due to being constructed from stainless steel. I added some garden hosing and hose lock style fittings for the water side, and I used 13mm ID silicone hosing for the wort side. If you are able to have the brewing system higher up than your Counterflow chiller, then you can rely on gravity for flow and can then attach the flow inside to the BrewMonk's bottom tap, as shown here. This is not the case in my brewing area though, so I used the workaround of adding a male camlock fitting to the wort-in hose and connected the BrewMonk this way instead, which worked really well. The disadvantage here is that the system's bazooka filter is just connected to the bottom tap, so to avoid having a hoppy trub in my fermenter, I let the first part of the transfer go into a small bucket for a few seconds before transferring the clean wort into my fermentation vessel. This is a very easy workaround and allows for good flow using the system's pump rather than just gravity. To avoid this altogether, all it would take is the addition of a false bottom, but at the point of making this video one is not available from the manufacturer, but I imagine something could be found aftermarket that would fit. I have to say that all things considered, including the fact that I have now tasted the resulting brew that you saw here, I have to say that I am impressed and pleased by the way the BrewMonk Wi-Fi handles a small batch brew. This gives it the flexibility to output from 10 to 30 litre brews, which is going to be suitable for average home brewer's requirements. Do let myself and the community know what you think within the comments section of this video. I do hope that you found this video useful, informative and interesting. If so, why not consider liking and subscribing? For further support you can join the channel's Facebook group, and if you would like to support the channel then check out the channel's merchandise store, as all profits go back into the channel. Until next time, happy brewing!